I call the Monday, April 7, 2025 meeting of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors to order. Mr. Barlow?
I move we convene in closed session pursuant to the following subsections of Virginia Code, Section 2.23711. In accordance with Section 2.23711A3, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property in the Mineral,
Yes,
Cuckoo,
we
and
are.
Lucy districts
Sad.
for a public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in the open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. 2, in accordance with Section 2.23711A5, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry in the mineral district where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Number 3, in accordance with Section 2.23711A8, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we go into closed session. Any discussion?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, that last statement that he read, if I got question about counsel for a clerical, a previous clerical error, damn tongue tie, a previous clerical error,
Error.
would that cover it?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're in closed session.
In open session.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we go back into open session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're now back into open session. I will now poll members certify that to the best of your knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and as identified in the motion for which the closed meeting was convened were discussed and considered by the board. If any member believes that the board varied from the purposes stated for the closed meeting, please state so and the reason prior to casting a vote. Mr. McCotter?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
All right, we're back into open session. This is the Monday, April the 7th, 2025 meeting of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to welcome those of you that are here in the public meeting room and those of you who are watching online. We will start this evening's meeting, as we always do, with the invocation by Mr. Williams this evening, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to join us, please stand.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you most of all for making a way for us to get to heaven through your Son, Jesus Christ. Father, be with us as we assemble here tonight. Thank you for the ability to serve. Thank you for all those who serve us in emergency services, overseas, sheriff's departments, and any other way, Father, to keep America free. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Williams?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to the consent agenda a resolution authorizing Louisa County Public Schools to issue employment contracts for the 2025-2026 school year. Put that under new business items, sir, if we can. Also like to delete item information discussion, presentation of VDOT quarterly update, as we received that earlier today during our six-year secondary plan workshop. And I would like to switch the order of the public hearings 2 to 1 and 1 to 2.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the bills.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the bills. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up is recognitions. Tonight, we're recognizing and honoring Tom Morehouse Jr. for his dedicated service to Louisa County. Mr. County Administrator.
Yes, sir. Mr. Warrose, if you and anyone you'd like to bring with you would like to come down front.
Just these.
Start with stand right up here in front of the dais. Face the audience.
This here, this public hearings. These are the public comments.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, members of the public, this is a resolution recognizing and honoring Tom Warrose Jr. for his dedicated service to Louisa County. Whereas Tom Warrose Jr. has demonstrated exceptional leadership and an unwavering commitment to the well-being of the students of Louisa County Public Schools through his role in the Connor Strong Foundation. And whereas under his guidance, the Connor Strong Foundation has been instrumental in introducing and funding the nationally recognized Sources of Strength program, a student-led, strength-based mental health initiative that has provided invaluable support to both middle and high school students in Louisa County. And whereas Mr. Rose's dedication led to the full implementation of the Sources of Strength secondary program in LCPS in 2021, ensuring that students have access to peer-led mental health resources, training, and initiatives that promote resilience and well-being. And whereas, through the Connor Strong Foundation, Mr. Warrose has provided critical financial support covering the costs of multiple adult and student peer leader training sessions, annual program fees, and resources necessary for the program's success in Louisa County and beyond. And whereas, in addition to supporting the secondary program, Mr. Warrose played a pivotal role in expanding mental health support for younger students by introducing the Sources of Strength Elementary program, which was successfully piloted in Louisa County elementary schools in 2024 and is now set for full implementation. And whereas his efforts extended beyond Louisa County, leading to the expansion of the SOSE program into multiple other counties, including Fluvanna, Greene, Nelson, and Manassas City, ensuring that even more students benefit from its positive impact. And whereas Mr. Warrose's work has fostered collaboration among school administrators, counselors, and community stakeholders, creating a lasting culture of support for student mental health and well-being in Louisa County and surrounding areas. And whereas his continued dedication, financial support, and hands-on involvement have significantly contributed to the success of the SOS programs, leaving a lasting impact on students, families, and the broader community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors extends its deepest appreciation to Tom Warrose Jr. for his dedicated service, unwavering commitment, and outstanding contributions to the mental health and well-being of the students of Louisa County. Thank you, sir. Supervisor Jones, I would ask that you present this.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, I'm a crier, so I usually cry, but I'd like to say just how grateful we are that you came to our school superintendent, Mr. Sterling. You brought this program, you brought the Connor Strong program, you helped us partner with Sources of Strength, and you led us down a road to improve mental health within Louisa County's school students, that we have been able to expand this program and this effort and implement this program because of your efforts, not just your time and your effort, but financial givings that you've given to our school system for this program to make lasting impacts on our children. Thank you.
Thank you,
Here, we're gonna do a picture, and then they're gonna let you go down there and say something.
Oh, thank you. Actually,
Yeah.
these are the two most important people that made this happen.
Sure.
They were
If he would- Yeah, I was going to say, if he would like to speak, sir, you can have up to 3 minutes to address the board.
That's why I have these notes here in front of me. Thank you very much. To say I'm thrilled in receiving these recognitions is an understatement, but I didn't do this by myself. Louisa County Public Schools, under the leadership of Mr. Straley and Dr. Alpern, are a shining example of how a community and supportive organization like our nonprofit foundation can work together to affect significant changes. The partnership between Louisa County Public Schools and the Connor Strong Foundation has not only impacted Louisa County schools, but has significant impact on other communities, as you heard earlier. Standing with me is my son Tommy, the president and founder of the Connor Strong Foundation that supported and funded this program, and Ashley Thorpe, who brought, over the 4 years, did all the training of the Sources of Strength program. On her own time, she came down here from her job. She works for the CSB up in Fairfax, and she's a member of our board. Tommy, would you like to just say a few words about the Connor Strong, and then Ashley?
Thank you for having us. A lot's been said already that I don't have to repeat, but on behalf of my family and Connor Strong Foundation, thank you. For those who don't know, we started the foundation in 2017 after losing my son Connor to suicide. And our sole mission was to save one kid and have one family not walk in our shoes. What has transpired over the past 4 years is a shining example of local resources and the community working together. That would not have happened without Doug Straley, Dr. Halpern, all of you, the school administrators, and our students down here. The efforts put forward and the willingness to help our children is immeasurable. and it is a blueprint for what is transpiring. We heard Nelson, Green, we just finished all of Manassas City. The impact that our foundation has been able to make by replicating what was done down here is positively impacting over 49,000 students. And the beauty of it is, it doesn't cost the schools anything. We fund it 100%. We've invested over $75,000 in Louisa County, and we will continue to fund and support as long as the county wants to push forward and help the students. Again, I can't thank you enough on behalf of my family and the foundation for your willingness to partner together, and I just hope that we can replicate this over and over again. I'd love to turn it over to Ashley Thorpe, who is not only our programs director, but she's also a certified therapist, working at the CSB up here in Northern Virginia, and she's been the trainer who's come down and given her time for your students.
Yes, thank you all so much. I really appreciate Dr. Alpern and Dr. Straley for supporting our efforts to spread messages of hope, help, and strength within our schools, not just in the Central Virginia area, but also Northern Virginia area. Having this as our kind of foundation to replicate through other school communities has just been remarkable. And I appreciate all the collaboration. I really enjoy coming down here and meeting with the middle and high schoolers and talking about their stressors, but also what helps them get through those stressors and hard times, because we all have mental health, we all have challenges, and how can we become more resilient and build upon our communities and reduce the stigma around mental health and wellness. So thank you so much for your commitment to that, and I'm very proud of this partnership and to be a part of the Connor Strong Foundation.
Well, thank you all very much for being here, and Tom, we appreciate you, and
I know
congratulations.
it's 3
on
minutes,
your-
but let me just say a couple things.
Yeah,
First,
very quickly, very quickly.
My Spring Creek friends over here, a lot of us use their facilities at no cost. They did the setup, the catering for the 2-day class that we did in September. Mr. Straley, he, on his own, went before the Blue Ridge Governor's School and asked us to present to him. If it hadn't been for him, we had 4 of the 7 school districts participate. For Dr. Alpern, for her time over the past 4 years with all the staff changes and student changes and making this happen. And finally, to the students and the counselors and teachers. They've been fantastic, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you for your work. Thank you all again very much. Congratulations. Next, we'll move on to public comment period. I do have one card here. Vicki Hart.
Vicki Hart, Louisa District. I know it is almost spring because it's actually been warm a few days in the last week or so, but I want to remind everyone that it is always not warm. And I would like to speak in support of changing the church-approved warming ordinance from the current state of emergency to the state description of November through March, which is their hypothermia season, so that the churches that want to can facilitate and be open for warming during that entire time period. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Fleming, Vernon Fleming.
Good evening, Chairman Adams and rest of the Board of Supervisors members. My name is Vernon Fleming, not a resident of Louisa County, but taxpayer of Louisa County, a resident of Goochland. I just want to share with you an update of what's happening with the Sargent Museum of the Louisa County Historical Society. We were kind of told that we need to make our faces more visible, so we're not asking for money. I just want to give you an update on what we're doing. Regarding the visitor center, January through March, we had 238 visitors to the museum center. 22 of those were for research, 147 for events, and 67 just museum visits and general tourist stops. Want to make you aware of some of the things that's coming up that we hope you will join us in attending. On Saturday, April 12th, we're having a seasonal Saturday, which is 10 to 3. It's a family-focused event just to educate the community on what's happening with the Historical Society and what's some of the history. That same afternoon, we're doing what's called an egg salient, which is teaching kids how to use natural dyes to color eggs. What's really important, and we hope you can attend, is the Heritage Day on Saturday, April 26th from 10 to 4 p.m. Heritage Day is our big event for the year. This is going to be where we're doing historical demonstrations, we're doing hearth cooking, spinning, blacksmithing, and much, much more. All the things that our ancestors did in the past, we want to demonstrate that as part of our history to educate the community. That same afternoon, the Louisa County High School class of 1970 is having a reunion. We'll be touring the Museum Center and also having an event at the Boxler Inn Place. So we're bringing revenue into the county. On Saturday, May 10th, we're having another seasonal Saturday, which is a free family event to educate children on how to do handmade gifts for mom. On Saturday, May 31st, we're doing a hearth cooking demonstration. June 7th, the Jack Jewett Day celebration at the Southern Revere Cellars. And on June 29th through June 19th through the 21st, the Juneteenth celebration to celebrate Juneteenth, which with a fish fry concert and also African American History Heritage Festival. Just recently, the Historical Society took possession of the archives for the Central Virginian. We've got those on display. Those will be available for folks to touch, look at. But again, we thank the Central Virginia for sharing those with us, but we'll take good care of them, make them available to the public to look at our history and study what's happened in the past. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Next card I have is Fred Vanderberg.
Good evening. Well, I had the pleasure, because Mr. Barnes...
I know I just introduced you, but for the record, give your name and your voting district.
Okay, my name is Fred Vanderberg. I live at 23...
Patrick Henry is all you need to say.
Huh?
You don't need your address, just Patrick Henry voting district.
Patrick Henry voting district. And I'd like to thank Mr. Barnes for having enough confidence in me with my short term here to put me on the committee for litter. It was an exciting committee. It had a lot of different ideas about how things should be done, but in the end, I can tell you that I think things came out very well with it. I guess my only concern would be is how you're going to enforce it. You know, you can write laws, you can do regulations, you can send out postcards, you can do movies, which were mentioned, but you still got to have somebody out there that's going to enforce this. And I think that's where it got lost before, because the laws were there in Virginia. You had them. They've been moderated by the board to suit Louisa, and you know, the surveys and things that were sent out to folks. A new attorney that came in, and I'm sure she weighed in on a lot of it to where it was going to be the best for what's in Louisa. But we still got a big job ahead of us, and without the ability to go out and enforce it, I think it will be in vain. But I do want to thank everybody for their patience, and because like I said, not everybody thinks the same, and we came out of it with a general opinion that we did the right thing. So thanks again, and where's my sign? Mr. Barnes, I told him the Holland Creek sign's been gone for a long time. He said he'd look into it. So anyway, he gives me a chance to see him. He's a busy man. I don't catch up with him. I guess that's about it. Has it been approved by the board? What was?
No, it hasn't come yet.
It hasn't come to us yet.
Oh, you haven't brought it? It was my understanding you were getting it tonight, so I didn't, that's why I came here and said something. Okay. If there's any changes or anything, keep me abreast of them, but I think you're on the right track.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see
Thank you for your service on that
yeah.
committee. We appreciate it. Next is David Potts.
That's all I got.
I'm David Potts, Cuckoo District. Good evening, I'm Dave Potts from the Elk Creek Landing Lakefront Development in the Cuckoo District, speaking on behalf of my neighbors and addressing the negative impacts of high occupancy income generating STRs on our community. We have two main points to bring to your attention. First, our increasing financial burden. Over the past 5 years, our assessments have gone up by as much as 100%, some 15% this year alone. Our rising assessments aren't driven by home improvements, but by the increasing sales prices of nearby homes purchased as income-generating investments. SDR homes perked for 4 or 5 bedrooms rent as sleeping 16 to over 20 people. Many are outfitted as small hotels with beds for 4 to 6 people and single bedrooms and multiple beds in non-bedroom areas. With lakefront SDRs renting in the summer for as much as $20,000 a week, some local realtors now advertise purchasing lakefront homes in residential communities as passive income powerhouses. Second, our decreasing quality of life. We bought our homes in a lakefront residential neighborhood anticipating enjoying the benefits of lake life among like-minded neighbors. But with a growing number of high-occupancy SDRs in our community, we now have ever-increasing trespassing, excessive noise, and many other issues related to having dozens of strangers, over 100 in the summer, coming and going daily throughout our community. People living next to these SDRs don't have neighbors. We have a continually changing flow of strangers on vacation. In 2024, Louisa County's STR ordinance permitted income-generating SDRs to legally do business in residential communities. This set the stage for high-occupancy, investor-owned SDRs to flourish next door to families with children and retirees. In our community, over 20% of our 52 homes are now income-generating SDRs. Our POA has an SDR registry, ongoing communication with SDR owners, and a fine policy for community regulations infractions. But we can only do so much. We need the county's help with 2 requests. Number 1, that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors and Office of Assessments begin assessing properties used as income-generating SDRs separately from properties used as full or part-time residences. Number 2, that Louisa County requires SDRs to strictly
15
comply
seconds.
with the SDR ordinances, including all Virginia Department of Health regulations and all applicable state building codes and safety regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So I don't have any other cards for public comment. We do have 2 public hearings tonight. One is on the budget, and then the other one is on a change of voting precincts. So if you're here to talk about the budget, you would wait till the public hearing. If you're here to talk about the voting precinct change. But if there's anything else that you want to discuss, now would be the time, if you want to address the board, to address the board. During those public hearings, you'll only be able to address the budget or the voting precinct changes. So is there anyone else, before I close the public comment period, that would wish to address the board? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment period, and we'll move on to new business action items. The first is a resolution authorizing a budget supplement to the Louisa County Water Authority for a headwork screen replacement for the Louisa County wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Goodwin?
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Barnes, just before your motion, it's on page 65. The headworks, this is for the intake at the Louisa Regional, or at the Northeast Creek Water Treatment Plant. And this is the screening system that filters out some of the sediment before it enters the system. It was put in 1996. It was retooled in 2012. It's time for it to be replaced. It's definitely given its full measure of service. And the information is included in the resolution, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Goodwin? Mr. Bright? Yep, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'll defer to someone else who had another one.
No, go ahead.
My only question is, we have a lot of budget supplements. I'm still new. This is not in the actual budget because this was something that immediately needed replacement.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't know exactly when it's going to go.
Understood.
So, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
And Ms. Baumann has given us information.
Yes, the
on
Water
this.
Authority
Yes.
Board requested this,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make the motion that we go ahead and approve this resolution.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is a resolution to proceed with the park maintenance capital project at the Betty Queen Center. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. This is an upgrade to the walking area around the playground of the Betty Queen Park, which includes the railroad ties on the outer edge and the retaining wall and some stormwater abatement. And it starts in page 71, and then following that, you can see the quote and everything that's included. And I'll stand ready to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Kuhn? What's the pleasure of the board?
So move. Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve with this maintenance capital project to the Betty Queen Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, excuse me, is a resolution authorizing the refunding of Series 2007A and 2009A school bonds. Ms. Colvin.
Chairman, members of the board, the Virginia Public Schools Authority reached out to us about refunding these bonds, which is pretty much refinancing, just for the life of the bond that it still has. They'll still be paid off in 2027 and 2029. If we refund them, we should receive a credit of $97,658 approximately. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Barna.
Does that extend the time period when you can pay these off?
No, we're still going to pay them off on their due date of when they'd be paid off in 2027 and 2029.
This doesn't extend that due date.
No,
And just to be clear, Ms. Colvin, you're not allowed to pay those bonds off
Not
early
allowed
either
to pay
because
those
they're
off.
school bonds.
yes.
Until after that date, though.
They're going to, they
you're-
come due, then they'll be done.
Due at the end of their term, you're not allowed to pay them off early period because
Well,
they're school
what I was
bonds.
getting at is by
Yes, sir.
refinancing this, we're not extending that time period.
It's just essentially
Yeah.
lowering the interest rate. Yes, sir.
Any other
Chairman?
questions?
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we authorize the refunding of these school bonds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is a resolution authorizing a budget supplement to Louisa County Public Schools for multiple capital projects. Ms. Colvin?
Yes, this is a resolution. The school board has requested to move a handful of projects out of fiscal year '26 into '25. Both ways, they'll use long-term capital reserve funding for it. It's so that they can get some of the things like your equipment replacement, carpet replacement done over the summer while school is out. So they want to be able to start in May and not wait till July 1, so it can be done before school goes back. Any questions?
Questions for Mrs. Colvin?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve this budget supplement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You're up today for a lot of things. The last is a resolution authorizing Louisa County Public Schools to issue employment contracts for the 2025-26 school year.
Mr. Chairman, hold on, Sue. I just want to make known that I am a school employee, but I have no
Conflict?
no conflict in this vote.
Yeah, I'd like to also make that statement. I am a Louisa County school employee, but there is no conflict of interest.
Awesome.
Ms. Colvin?
This is a request from the school superintendent to be able to go ahead and issue teachers' contracts now versus waiting until July 1. We do not have a state budget yet or county budget yet, but they don't want to lose their good employees they have, so he would like to go ahead and make it using what we have in the proposed budget.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded that we approve the resolution to authorize the school to issue contracts to teachers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is committee reports. I don't know if we have any committee reports, but before I go to that, one thing I would like to mention, and I guess here would be a good time to do it. The board adopts every year a schedule of its meetings. The official calendar that we adopted had our next April meeting on 4/21. However, we have moved and advertised the next meeting to be April the 28th. And so for the purposes of officially adopting that date, the chair will entertain a motion to move the meeting to the 28th.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that the second April meeting be moved to April the 28th. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any committee reports? I'm not sure that was a committee report. Mr. McCotter?
I'll defer to the
No,
lady sitting
you're
next to me.
fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But real quick, Lake Anna Advisory Committee met recently. I think it was March 27th or 28th, we approved the 2025 hydrol management plan that will be using grass eating carp and aquatic herbicide. We have not heard yet on a pay for results grant application from DEQ. We're anticipating that within 10 days. Significant amount of money to address phosphorus issues in the lake that cause harmful algae blooms. Also, and this is probably the most significant thing that we understand, we think the DEQ is going to change the protocol for testing algae blooms from toxins to cell counts. That's very scientific, and that maybe might not be able to be understood, but what that means is that we may see less, let me rephrase it this way, there may be impact on HAB advisories in the future. That concludes my report.
Any other?
More advisors or less advisors?
Well, we'll have to
Let's
see
just
what
say
BDH
impact.
does. Any other committee reports, Mr. Barlow?
Not a committee report, but I failed to bring this to the board at our last meeting. And Mr. Adams and I both attended when Governor Youngkin and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. came to the high school. And while they were going from classroom to classroom, and I kind of lingered back in the back of the entourage, which gave me an opportunity to talk to one of the troopers who was in his, goes around with the governor everywhere. And we had a really interesting conversation, and that was that this all came about on the spur of the moment. They had really no place. They found out that Mr. Kennedy was coming. They had no place to set up to go to. That usually requires a lot of security and that kind of thing. And Governor Youngkin told that his security team that he knew the perfect place to go. And that was Louisiana County High School, because there will be no issues with security. They will be able to take us in, and it won't be a hassle getting ready for it or anything else. And it was a really interesting conversation, and it sort of gave me a new idea of how we're perceived in the state of Virginia as far as our school system and what have you. They picked a place that they knew they wouldn't have any problems. They came out, had a great visit. The school was spotless. There was no time to prepare for it. It just, the governor knew where he could come and have a good visit and bring one of the top officials in the country here and feel comfortable about doing it and not having to take a week to get security in place. There will be no riots, protests, or anything else. We can go to Louisiana County schools and have a good showing for Mr. Kennedy. And I thought it was phenomenal. And but I wouldn't have had that conversation if I just hadn't have stayed back at the back of the crowd and had a normal conversation that really put Louisiana County in a good light. And I failed to bring that up directly after our meeting, but I made a point I wasn't going to miss the opportunity again.
No, I appreciate you saying that. In that same vein, about a week or so ago, Mr. Straley, Sheriff Lowe, and myself, representing the Board of Supervisors, visited each school in the county to recognize the school resource officers at each school. And it's very gratifying to see how they interact. You know, their obviously main job is to provide security for the school and the staff and the students and the faculty. But it is very gratifying to see their interaction with the students from the elementary schools to the high school. And as you that follow county government have heard us say here quite frequently, Louisa County was the first county in the Commonwealth to have a school resource officer in every school. But it's gratifying to tell those men and women thank you, but also to see how they're being received by the staff and the faculty at the school. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Do we have it? Yes, ma'am.
I just, it's not a committee, but I attended the Gordonsville Fire Banquet with Chief Hawk was there this weekend, and it's one of my favorite annual banquets to go. But Gordonsville is one of the few volunteer companies that's still around, and they are a thriving company. And even though they sit in Orange County, they have a large presence here in our community, and they are very proud to serve Louisa County. I had many of them coming up, tickled that the chief and I were there and just bragging about how they serve us. And they have a strong youth contingency coming through and strong training programs, and they were highlighting all of those programs. And they do have a voting seat on our MOG, and we do financially support them for coming into the community more than what happens with other mutual aid. But just the fact that they are so in tune to our community here in Louisa County, and they're proud that they serve us in Louisa. And they also took a big loss. They lost a longtime member, and also had the day after their banquet, it was a little bit of a gray area, a gray night, because they had his memorial service the next day. I believe the Central Virginian covered that memorial service. And our very own school board rep, Debbie Hoffman, received the President's Award Saturday night for 35 years of service in the auxiliary to the Gordonsville Fire Department. So, yes, it is noteworthy.
Yeah. In that same vein, I will have to give a shout out too. We talk about our volunteer firefighters and EMT people. Gordonsville does a great job. We've certainly seen in the last year Company 2 Minerals step up and recruiting and getting young people and running calls and actually handling the fire side of it pretty much on their own. And we see the same thing at Locust Grove and Locust Creek and Lake Anna Rescue. And so all of those folks that volunteer, we realize they're almost doing another full-time job with all the training and certification that they have to do, providing that service for our citizens. So I think I can speak on behalf of the board that we're very grateful for the volunteers in our fire and EMS department as they're meeting the needs of the community. Any other committee reports? All right, we'll move on to board appointments. I do know we have one, Mr.
Chairman, we have two that I know of. Mr. Jimmy Snyder to the Louisa County Water Authority for the Mineral District, and Ms. Carol Stone to the Human Services Advisory Board.
And I have one as well.
Okay.
I would like to appoint Mr. James Wilkins to the Louisa County Commission on Aging as my second appointee to that esteemed group.
All right, any other appointments? That's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. County Administrator's Report, Mr. Goodwin.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we've covered a number of items that I would talk about in other places in the agenda, but in my memo to the board, there are several dates that I want to make sure that you have on your calendars. This Saturday will be a very busy weekend in the county. We've got our Easter extravaganza and the Rumpus and Bumpus, and I do have one thing to ask you about that's not in my CA report. There have been some citizens that have enumerated concerns about electronic signs in the county. Some of the board have brought up concerns about electronic signs in the county, and staff and the Planning Commission are working on some changes to the electronic sign ordinance in the county, which will come before the Planning Commission next week. Question for the board is, do you all want staff to communicate with some folks that have been the subject of some of the concerns in advance of retooling the ordinance, which could run into early summer, depending on how quickly the Planning Commission and the board decide to take action on this? So staff put together just a draft letter. The current ordinance, if you're not familiar with it, just says that the sign shall not be located or illuminated in such a manner as to cause a traffic hazard. And so we could put together a letter to folks that just says the Community Development Department has received several complaints regarding the light intensity and the brightness for vehicles driving at night, creating potentially hazardous conditions. Ask that documentation be provided to confirm that the lighting meets dark sky standards. Recommend or request that they have a sensor installed to essentially dim the sign. And just to give you a preview of coming attractions, what we're looking at for the new ordinance would be a measurable way of discerning whether or not a sign were compliant or non-compliant at night, and thereby taking that kind of less specific hazardous definition out of the ordinance. So we could send a soft letter in advance, but I didn't want to do that without talking to you all first, as there are a number of electronic signs in the county. So don't need any official action, but we'll welcome some general feedback from the board.
I think it seems reasonable to send something like that and just ask them how they are complying with the current ordinance, even though it is maybe hard to comply with. Is this, I think you used the word electronic signs, is this illuminated signs or electronic signs, or does illuminated sign fall under the electronic sign?
Most of the discussion has centered around
Electronic
signs,
signs.
but you certainly could have an illuminated sign that created a similar hazard.
Yeah, okay.
So, and we would be happy in that situation. I think more of the concern and discussion has been toward the former, but if there were a latter example that created a cause for concern, we could certainly use this approach for it as well.
Okay.
So if the ordinance would change, the existing signs would fall under the new ordinance, correct?
That would depend on whether or not you all and the Planning Commission.
Grandfathered them in?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would suspect, I don't know, but I would suspect if it's the existing signs that are causing the complaints, that you would want those repaired or brought up to code. Modified. So I would agree with Mr. Williams that it would only seem fair to give people a heads up that there may be something coming down the road.
Especially if they've received a complaint, and they would know to come and be able to speak about it at the planning commission level or something like that.
Very well.
All right. Any other comments? Anything else, Mr. Goodwin?
No, sir. Thank you.
Conclude your remarks. You didn't finish with that. Concludes my remarks.
I didn't.
Come on.
But you knew.
We have cues here, you know.
Or did that statement?
All right. On to public hearings. We have switched the order of the public hearing. The first public hearing tonight is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1, in General Section 2-4, Election Districts and Precincts, subsection 2B, Green Springs 2 Precinct, and subsection 2E, Louisa 3 Precinct, and to repeal Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1 in general. So there's the legal definition. I think that is you, Ms. Smith, and I see the registrar is here as well. So if we have any questions for her. Miss, make sure you use the mic so we can.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This ordinance amends Chapter 2 Administration. It's Section 2-5, Election Districts, and that will be on pages 108 and 109. First Amendment changes the voting place for Green Springs Number 2 Precinct to Trevilian's Elementary School. The Second Amendment changes the voting place for the Louisa Number 3 Precinct also to Trevilian's Elementary School. And both of those were formerly Loving Grace Church. And that's pretty much all that I have, unless there's some questions.
Pretty straightforward. Is there any questions of Mrs. Smith? Any question? And Ms. Watkins, do you want to, I mean, we'll just get this all on the record, I know. Obviously, you're the county registrar.
Yes,
You're
sir.
in favor, and the electoral board is in favor of this change?
Yes, sir. It's just that the church, we've kind of outgrown that church. Now that we have 2 voting locations there, as for handicap accessibility and safety of the voters coming into the precinct and pulling back out onto 15, the traffic is just moving at a pretty good rate of speed through there. And we have had several complaints from our officers of election and the voters that they would like to move to a different location. And with the school, it is handicap accessible. There is plenty of parking. There are many different rooms that we could use. And so we just felt like that would be a good change.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Watkins? Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would wish to address the board on this public hearing on moving these 2 voting precincts? Mrs. Hart?
Vicki Hart, Louisa District. I actually work this polling location, and I agree this is the best move that you could make. because I watch the people coming in and going out and the confusion they have between going around the back or standing in line at the front and finding out they're in the wrong spot. So I appreciate this is finally being done and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would wish to address the board concerning this? All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring this back to the board. We have two supervisors that impact, so I don't know which of you want to speak or make a motion.
Yeah, I think this is a long time coming for this particular precinct, especially now that we've had to split it between the Louisa district and the Green Springs district. The traffic has increased substantially on Route 15, and we've just outgrown, and there are safety concerns for some elderly that do come to this precinct, and I think, for me, I supported it after the last election when I would receive phone calls with concerns from constituents and from members, workers who were in the polling stations explaining all of the difficulty and challenges that they had during the last election, that it was a no-brainer for me to step up and say, we need to find a new location.
That's right, yeah. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Woodward.
I agree with Supervisor Jones. The facility, certainly thanks to the church for allowing us to
Yes.
have the polling place there for a number of years. But I think the citizens, while they may not like to have to drive a little distance, I think they'll really appreciate having Trevilian School. And I really commend Ms. Watkins and her staff for the time they took to get all the information together and to put this all together. I think it is a very good move and one that, for safety reasons, will be a tremendous improvement.
Mr. Chairman, speaking from a district that has done this, I think with early voting, as it is more and more people taking advantage of early voting, that it offers you an opportunity to do this. And I represent a district that we started out years ago using a shed to vote in, to now using mouse knuckles, which is really, really nice, and let everybody vote. So I can support this.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Burnham.
This is on the voting precincts, I'm assuming I've come
Yes.
back in a little
Yes,
late.
sir.
Is Chris here?
Yes.
Okay. Just a clarification, I'm trying to figure out, Bloomingdale Lane, rather. Yeah, I'm looking at the description for the Mountain Road District. And it has Bloomington Lane, Route 67. I don't see, I looked on the county map here.
Are you speaking of,
Speak about Mountain Road District as we're speaking about in general.
Yeah, just Mountain Road District.
right, but are you speaking of the property where the Wolf folks live?
I was going to say, that's the name of that road.
Bloomington.
I think it is. What is confusion is, it's got the sentence above it says that's north along Roundabout Road, Route 604. I understand that.
That's Yanceyville Road, right?
Exactly. Then until it intersects with Bloomington Lane, Route 67. So I don't know, where this gets publicized or something, but I don't think there is a Route 67. I think Bloomington Lane is just a private road. I'm not sure. I just bring it up to look at it and see what the devil Route 67 is.
Yeah, I'm not, we refer with everything by the lanes, or the name. So
Well,
I'm not sure where the 67 came
In
from.
this description of the Mountain Road District, it has the road name for each one.
Right.
And then a comma with the route name, such as Parish Road, that's comma, Route 683.
Okay.
Well, when you get to Bloomington Lane, comma, Route 67.
I can get with Matthias on that, Matthias Smith, and
That's the
see.
only reason I bring it up, because I'm not real sure I don't think there is a Route 67 in Louisa County.
Okay, I'll check with Matthias
And I
Smith.
doubt if it has any route number on that road.
There are 4 districts that come together at that one point,
It is.
where the Wolf Oaks Lives Mineral District. Coming back.
Which they're happy about, by the way.
Well,
yeah.
they just don't understand. maybe.
That may be something to that one, yeah.
Coming back west on the north side is Louisa District now. The other side of the road is Patrick Henry District, and Mr. Barlow's district, Mountain Road, comes up to Monty and Catherine's house, Hyder's. So,
Y'all drew the lines.
And I think almost in one person's yard and being 4 different.
Throw a rock in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly.
I will check with Matthias on that. Exactly.
I just think it's, I don't know where 67 came from.
Yeah.
Route
All right.
67.
See, we had a public hearing, we closed the public hearing, which affects you too.
Somebody please make a motion.
Somebody make a
I
motion.
move that we go with the change in the voting precinct.
Right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we amend Chapter 2 Administration on the voting precincts. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're on to the final public hearing, which is the fiscal year 2026 budget. Ms. Colvin.
Again, Chairman and members of the board. Now let's see if the clicker likes me today. Yes, yay. Okay. So we are continuing to revise our budget for expenditures and revenues as we get better information. So what you'll see tonight is what we know as of today. So this is with Finance Committee recommendations, and as we go through, we'll go into more detail. So our total budget, as it stands right now, is $188.4 million. This is an operating increase of $18.7 million, or 11.97%. Revenues are also increased $12.9 million, or 7.51%. We are not recommending a tax increase. There is an operating surplus of $10.2 million, and then capital projects total $13.5 as they stand today with recommended budget. We do have, to help meet some of the items that we talk about here, unrestricted fund balance of $16.6 million, long-term capital reserves for the county of $9.6 million, and long-term school capital reserves of $5.3 million. So when you look at the revenue overview, these revenues aren't final. We're still waiting on state and federal revenues, and we'll know more in the coming weeks, hopefully. The largest increase in revenue, as you look at these, is going to be use of money, which is interest. Right now, we have bonds that have been issued, so all that money hasn't been spent. So we're gaining on interest revenue right now, which until all the projects are done, that revenue is increased. You'll also see that as you look at my chart here, property taxes are our biggest revenue source. The next one on here, you'll see are permits and license fees. We're projecting a couple permits from Amazon, AWS next year, and so those are increased in here for those few permits that we are looking at, those larger permits. So the revenue highlights, general property revenues are up 6.2%, or $5.6 million. Other local tax increases are increased by other local taxes, which is your sales taxes, your transit occupancy. They're up 9.8%, or $1.5 million, because sales taxes have been up. Revenue from use of money, which I was just talking about, an increase of $1.4 million. Meals tax is an increase of about $200,000, and then Louisa County Public Schools increase of about 2.6. This includes additional state revenues that we're anticipating, but again, we're not sure of that number at this point. So that's 12.9 increase. Expenses, as you look at this slide, you will see that our largest expense is education, with public safety being next and human services after that, and then of course our capital projects. The expenditure operating highlights, as you look at these, some of the larger items, $5.5 million increase in debt payment services, because we did a lot of school capital projects last year, and water. The biggest ones were the schools, and then some of the water projects we had after that. It is an increase in our health insurance this year of 7.5%. This does pick up the employee portion of the increase in the insurance. We have 3% compensation increases built in keeping with the state budget. Employee bonuses are included. That's also in keeping with the state budget. They're recommending that. It does have additional full-time positions, additional part-time positions, and moving 2 part-time positions to full-time. We do have funding to address retention and career development for some of our fire and EMS staffing, as well as some other departments that are higher turnover, to keep that in there. Increased maintenance costs, software costs, contractual, the normal things with the increase in costs these days. And then CSA and DHS expenses are continually going up, but state funding and federal funding will offset some of that. School highlights, we have compensation increases of 3% plus a step for certified staff and 4% for the classified staff. It does include additional teachers, instructional assistants, custodial positions. Operational cost increases, just like the county has, the school has those as well. Software, technology, tuition assistance, summer school cost, those are increased. And then we had a prior adjustment. We did not have the state budget at the time that we adopted our budget last year, and we made increases after the original budget. Always look at original budget, not revised budget. So the additional $2 million that we did during the year is also included in here. Capital, this isn't all of the items. We've been talking about these as we've been going along through the budget process, but here's some of the larger ones that are still in there. $2.48 million for technology upgrades equipment for the school. Fire and EMS apparatus equipment, replacements, things like that, $4.4 million. The Louisa Water Authority's sludge vac system that they've been working through for the last couple years, Zion wastewater treatment plant SCADA system, and then some new bridge upgrades and repairs are also in here. Circuit court remodel for the second floor auxiliary courtroom, $876,000. That's all part of our space and moving things around. Sheriff's vehicles, $580,000. Volunteer station capital projects for our volunteer stations, $540,000. Landfill closure and new cell development. This is our savings plan that we do each year, so we're ready to do this when time comes. $425,000 for those 2 items. The Parks and Rec aquatic facility, we've been putting aside $400,000 a year for that, and we're continuing to do that. And then community development fleet vehicles of $350,000, and those are replacement vehicles, which a lot of the AWS fees will offset that cost. So our current fund balance for general fund is $16.7 million, $16.6 million at this time. You know, as the year goes out, that could change, but that's where we're at right now. Our current tax rates, we're still one of the lowest for real property taxes, and we are the lowest for personal property taxes. Okay, so this slide shows the changes since our public hearing notice that was published, and so I just wanted to point those out. So with that, we have moved the animal shelter addition out a year. If additional funding comes in 25 that we can have a budgeted savings or something like that, we hope to move it back in, but at this point we're moving it out in hopes to have a 2-cent equivalent real estate tax rebate. And that amount that it would take to do that would be $2.2 million for that. We've added an additional interest income as I analyzed. It looked like we'll have more than I originally thought. And then we did reduce the number of new positions that we were going to add this year. There were 13. We've moved that down to 10, but they were fire and EMS positions. And then we also reduced the long-term capital reserve usage from the schools of a $14 million.
Ms. Colvin, before you move on from that, I just want to make a comment about, because I had some questions today, and as you know, maybe not all the public knows, Mr. Williams and I serve on the Finance Committee. The reduced number of new positions for fire and EMS, those were requested new positions, and I would point out that, and I see the fire chief came in here a minute ago, so I would point out that there are a number of current vacancies in fire and EMS, and I know they're recruiting. I think they have a good number of people coming on staff here very shortly. Those positions, even though they're vacant, are fully funded in this proposed budget. So as they fill those, that money is already built into the budget.
Absolutely.
We've done this with the Sheriff's Department over a number of years. that once they fill those positions, if the fire chief feels that we have a need for additional positions, the board can always revisit that and add those positions mid-year, which we have done in the past with the sheriff's department.
Absolutely.
So this is truly not a cut in personnel.
Oh, no.
And additionally, and I think you touched on it, included in this budget is money for retention and training and hiring these new staff members that we're having. So I understand the verbiage, but I just wanted to clarify so that people, because I did get a couple phone calls about this over the weekend.
Too.
We are not cutting fire and EMS staff.
We are
Matter of
not
fact,
cutting,
We're
no.
funding the vacancies. We're putting money in for training and retention and hiring. And based on the fire chief and the MOG's recommendations, if we need more staff mid-budget year, that's always something that the board can come back and revisit.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, right now, we're just hoping to get the vacancies filled, and then we'll definitely come to you if we get all those filled and need additional. Chief Hawk and I talk regularly, and we'll keep you informed of that.
Thank you.
So next steps. So we're waiting for the final state budget, and that will affect comp board positions, CSA funding, things like that. So once we have those, I'll make those adjustments before our next meeting. Consideration of tax relief for elderly program changes. This is something that's been requested of us, and we wondered if y'all wanted to consider this, potentially moving the maximum amount of relief for the elderly from $2,000 to $3,000. If that's something you would like to do, then just please direct us. We have to do a public hearing for that because it's an ordinance change. Next,
Hold on.
Yes,
Mr.
yep.
Barlow, I was waiting for your hand to go.
Yes, sorry. So sorry.
I would just say that when we did the $1,000, and it was sort of a cap as to who could, in other words, that's all you could get out of it. Then it went to 2,000. And now I think Ms. Fletcher had suggested 2,500 with the prices, and she was trying to explain it, but I think because of the cap and the assessments and everything else that's gone up, I don't see that it's going to add a whole bunch of people that can take advantage of it. It just raises the cap so that those that were taking advantage of it are not kicked out.
Exactly.
And I think with my time on the board, that's something that I feel better about than anything else I've been associated with. And I would certainly suggest that we make that 3,000 instead of the 25.
This proposed budget from the Finance Committee projects that the board will increase that amount to $3,000. So this would be a good a time as any, I guess, to direct staff to put a public hearing, advertise a public hearing so that we can consider raising that relief from $2,000 to $3,000.
That's a good plan.
And that is built into this proposed budget, making the assumption that the board would fall in line behind that.
Absolutely. Another thought that the board can consider, if we just do a tax rebate on all non-public service corporation properties only, that would allow for a 2.4 cent rebate or a 3.3% tax rebate. And it also would allow enough for the elderly tax relief within the same amount of money we've set aside. So if we don't do all real estate and just look at non-public service corporation, you could consider a 2.4 cent rebate versus a 2 cent rebate. If I got that mixed up, please let me know. Next is also the adoption of the budget will be, there's no action needed tonight. The adoption of the budget will be at our meeting on April 28th. The tax rate will need to be set on April 28th. And then on May 5th will be the appropriation of the operating and capital budgets.
Before you go, Mrs. Jones.
Sorry.
Yeah, I have one thing we can go back to, but
Yes.
this one, the non-public service corporation properties, can you just, for citizens out there going, what does that mean? Can you just explain what that is?
Sure, it's your utilities, so your Dominion Powers, your Rappahannocks, your your water utilities, your fireflies, any of your utilities or
Columbia Gas
SEC.
Transmission.
Yes, absolutely. Railroads, things like that that go through SEC.
Okay.
Does that help?
That helps
Okay.
a lot.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that we can discuss right now?
Friend of mine says you're on the Board of Supervisors.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can discuss whatever you want to discuss, yeah.
I think that we should do that. I think that we should take the rebate off of the non-public service corporations and just leave it on the homeowners.
That's
Well,
what we proposed.
That's what we
That was
proposed.
finance.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that 2.4%,
No, it's 2.4 cents. It's 3.3% per cent.
I got it tongue-tied, so sorry.
that 2.4 cents comes to what kind of ratio? Is it
3.3%.
No, I mean, is it 70 cent?
It's 60,
Well,
it would
It
be
would be
69.
69.6.
I agree with Mr. Wood.
Yeah. So, all right, it doesn't take much to get me confused, as you know. My understanding was we were going to do a 2 point something another rebate, but it's actually
If you take out the
it's actually a 2.4 cent, which makes it 3.3%.
3%, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's exactly
I
right.
just needed that clarified. Thank you.
So the difference is you're not giving it to the non-public service corporations. So you're giving it just to the homeowners and the other taxpayers.
Yeah.
And so you pick up that other 0.4 cents, and it's easily defined and easy for the commissioner's office to handle at that point.
Thank you.
And, I would say that this tax relief and additional tax relief, if we adopt the increase to the elderly, is about you have it here, $2.3 million. And it drops the real tax rate down to 69.6 cents per hundred with the rebate. But I would say, in my opinion, and haven't even said this to Mr. Williams, but, and I may not be here next year, so we'll see, but next year, as we start to see the revenue that comes in from these investments, these economic development investments in the county, I think that that's an opportunity for the next board to look at widespread tax relief, whether that's broad-based real estate tax relief, or in my opinion, slashing the personal property tax rate. That is much broader based, because if you rent a home or you rent an apartment, you don't have real estate taxes right now, but you probably own a car, you probably own a vehicle. People that own, two-car household. So you can look at that type of tax relief when we actually start seeing. I had somebody say to me over the weekend, well, you're already having revenue come in from the AWS investments. Well, no, they're building the buildings. Nothing's coming in yet, but I think we'll see that starting to come in next year. And that's when I think that as much work as went into this budget, which this process starts in September, and a tremendous amount of work has went into this budget to get us to where we're at on what I think is a very fair and balanced budget, which we're required to have a balanced budget, and provides tax relief to our citizens. I think we're right on the cusp of being able to provide much broader-based tax relief as we see that economic development money start to come in next year. So, my 2 cents, my 2.4 cents worth. Yes, ma'am.
One, that money, because I sit on the committee with Mr. Woodward and all of us, that money actually going to start trickling in around 2027. Is that correct? So it's
Yeah.
a few more years out, not next year.
Right, not 26. It'll be
Yeah.
fiscal year 27 as we build the 27 budget, and that'll be a smaller amount. And when we hit to like 2030, there's going to be a substantial amount that we'll see more. It'll be like small, and then
then we'll
pop
see
on
it.
up. Yeah.
Big
as
But we
the
will
build-
build the fiscal year 27 budget.
Yes.
Next year. Because this, remember, even though it's 2025, this is fiscal year 26 budget,
That is
which
true.
starts in July.
That is true. I also have a question, and maybe Mr. Williams, because he and I have discussed this. I've got some calls also about EMS, so I'm glad that you cleared that up. And I also had some calls about us pushing the animal shelter back. But the animal shelter, even though we're going to push it back a year, still will be moving forward. And I don't know if you could speak a little bit more to
Yeah,
that.
we looked at that at the Finance Committee. We have money in the budget right now to handle the architectural engineering drawings, so they're going to start that process. We're going to evaluate the any monies we have left over at the end of the year this year and see if we can't build that out of the cash money we may or may not have left over at the end of the year and still try to build it next year. We just pulled it out of the budget, that's all.
Okay.
We actually didn't pull it out. We kicked it out a year,
Moved it out,
hoping
yeah.
to bring
Did
it
not
back
go
in.
out, yeah.
But it'll
Let me
still
just-
be moving forward.
Repeat that, yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Thank you.
And then my last thing is if the proposed budget document is on the finance page of the website. If anybody wants to see the details, I will continue to tweak it as we get better information. I'll add more detail as we firm things up, and I'm ready to answer any other questions that you might have.
I'll ask you one, though I already know the answer to this. Any ideas if the governor's going to sign the budget that the General Assembly just sent back to him?
I do not. I'm hoping by April
Yeah.
28th.
Don't we
But at
all?
least by July 1st, right?
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Thank-
Any other questions for Ms. Coleman? Thank you, Ms. Coleman. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that, oh, I have one card.
You have two.
I have two. I apologize because I'm not going to get your last name right. Roseanne?
Roseanne.
How about that?
Rosani.
Roseanne, I even got your first name wrong. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Rosani Olia. I'm in the Cuckoo's Nest District. Everybody knows that the budget is based on the expected revenue. I'd like to point out that that's money. Sorry?
Yeah, use the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can hear.
I'd like to point out that the expected revenue really is money that is not in the bank yet, is expected. It is not our money yet. We don't have it. We've talked today how the assessments have increased over 50% over time. I'm not going to elaborate on that. The issue I'd like to bring forward to this group today is that the county spending is out of control. This county, we have been blessed with some significant increases in revenue over time. And over the last few years. This increase is really based on the increased taxes that are being levied on the county residents. That is why we have all this budget to spend. You have the power to plan better. This committee has the power to plan better and decrease the tax burden on the citizens of this county. I have the power of vote. I have the power of free speech. I'm exercising the power of free speech today to express how dissatisfied I am with this board's decision over the last few years on how you have spent my money. Your inability to contain costs and not overburden the citizens of this county have made me not trust the vote I have been placed on you, as each one of us has trusted you with the power to manage our money. The rebate is nice and it's an appeasing move. It will not change the fact that next year that 72 cents is still part of my assessment. It's still part of the tax that I pay. It will not change that. You have the power to change the tax. I expect you as a board and as people I voted for to take more decisive actions and the decisions, better decisions on how you are managing my money over time. So that not only we can all be here in a few years living and continuing to pay taxes, but you can trust, you have earned back my trust in my vote. Thank you.
Next is Bruce Tinney.
Bruce Tenney, also Cuckoo District. I really appreciate the most recent conversation about looking forward, finding ways of making a substantial reduction in property taxes. That's exactly the kind of thing that I really hope that you would be looking for. But I have 3 requests for you tonight. I would like for you to vote no against this current budget, because this current budget continues the progression of growth over the last 5 years since I've been here. I was here a couple weeks ago. You're aware that, my taxes are going to be 80% higher this year than they were 5 years ago. All right, and that is a very significant thing for me. And so the budget has grown substantially. I know the county's growing. I expect the budget to grow some, but not 65% over 5 years for the base budget. And we took on $32 million of additional debt last year. We're now paying $11 million a year in debt servicing fees. That's a very substantial thing. So my request is we got to curb the growth of the budget at some point. That's the only way you're going to look for ways to reduce the tax rate for us. My second request is the way you build the budget. Don't build the budget next year the same way. I've worked for the government for 32 years. I know if you go into a department and you say, what do you need to do next year? The first thing you do is you start with what you did this year, and then you look at all the great things that you want to do in the following year. So you always establish a minimum at that point, and you grow it. So the means by which you actually build the budget matters. And so my request to you is for fiscal 27 that you set a cap to begin with and tell the departments to work to that cap, irrespective of the expected revenue. And then you can get more insight into exactly what is essential and what's not essential. So I hope that that's a better and easier process for you to actually understand how to find what is the minimum essential services that are necessary for us to have a place where we truly want to live. And my last request, and I appreciate the comment about the elderly here, because I want ask you to recognize the disparity of the tax burden that is placed on, I'll say, high-value properties, and the devastating tax impact on those of us residents
15 seconds.
that are retired and living on a fixed income. What you were talking about is the amount of tax, not who's eligible for that tax relief. And the way the county has this currently structured, it's a very small population of people that would be eligible for the elderly tax relief program. And I've offered Mr. McCarter some thoughts with respect to that. So I understand my time's up, but we talk about tax relief. I'm going to pay more taxes this year than I paid last year based on this budget. That's not tax relief to me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I don't have any more cards, but is there anyone else that would wish to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Then you next, sir. Yes, ma'am. You can give Mr. Goodwin the card.
Hello, my name is Courtney Sloan. I live in the Mountain Road District, and I bought my house in 2020. I paid $250,000 at that time, and now the proposed 2025 assessment values it at $363,600, which is a significant increase. And I understand that part of that is just the price of real estate overall. But I looked into the property tax rates for real estate in other counties in Virginia, and Louisa is among the higher rates in Virginia. I was quite surprised to see that Goochland, actually, their rate is 0.53 compared to Louisa's 0.72, which I was surprised by. I just would have thought Louisa, in my mind, is a bit more rural. It's bigger. It has a couple of big, like Louisa Town is considerably bigger than anything Goochland has, and we have Zion Crossroads also to bring in revenue. So I just was surprised by that. That's all. I know that there may be other ways of bringing in tax money in other areas, but that difference just kind of shocked me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Steve Randolph, and I'm with the Cuckoo area. That lady said that she bought her house in 2020, and I can almost boilerplate that. I bought mine in 2020, and I paid $390,000. I was shocked when I got the assessment on my house this year, $700,000. Now that's great if I'm going to sell it, but then the question is, can I get the 700? So I did a little research. I looked at Trulia, which is real estate agents. $642,500 is the assessment for my house. That's what they're saying I can get. Zillow, $642,500. These people are not pulling these figures out of the air. And then I looked at another one that was $652,000. So I kept looking. To be fair, I looked and I found one, I believe it was called HomeBot, whatever that is. And they said $700,000. So I'm thinking, three are telling me that I'm in the mid sixes, and this one tells me I'm at 700,000. And I'm a fair guy to a certain point. So I took those four values, added them together, and divided them by 4, and I came out with $655,000. Now I want to know how somebody came up with, in Louisa County, how they came up with $700,000. When 4 other real estate outfits say no, well, 3 say no, and 1 says yes. So then I thought about this. We are at 72 cents per 100. Now, I like the idea here that we're not getting a tax increase according to the budget. That's great. But then I'm thinking that y'all are saying 69 cents, 0.2 or whatever it is, which is a step in the right direction. And that's good. So then I'm thinking,
15 seconds.
How can we make this fair? How about if we offset it, the amount of money that you're going to make extra off of me, 50,000, and like everybody else are going to get it, if you offset it and made it 65,000, y'all are going to still get the same amount of money. And I'm out of time, but thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. Mr. Barnes?
Oh, so move.
Been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.